Welcome back, guys. Today I've got a special treat, Purple Toad Distillery. See if these words excite you. 11-year, double oak, $70. Let's get into it. This is Purple Toad Distillery, Paducah, Kentucky. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. They started out as a winery, I believe, opening around the mid-2000s, and now have transitioned into whiskey. For the moment, they're sourcing their whiskey, but I'm pretty sure they will start distilling their own if they haven't already. These guys were at the Spillway event here in 2026 here recently. I didn't get a chance to talk to them, but I did hear from pretty much everyone there that these bottles were amazing. They did have some other offerings there, some small batches, some other age-stated whiskeys, but I missed out on picking up all of those. And then just randomly at one of my local liquor stores, walked in and they had this sitting on the shelf for $70. 11-year double oak, $70, that's all I needed to hear. But this is not a bourbon. This is a double oak Kentucky whiskey, which begs the question, if it's 11 years old, 118 proof, why is it a Kentucky whiskey and not a Kentucky bourbon? Let's dive in. So this is where things get interesting about this bottle. From my understanding from two different sources, I've heard that this is either Jim Beam distillate or Green River distillate. We do know the mash bill is 70% corn, 21% rye, and 9% malted barley. But why is this labeled as a Kentucky whiskey and not a Kentucky bourbon? Here we go. So I'm pulling this straight from Purple Toad's website. This bold Kentucky straight whiskey spent its first 7 years aging in a used barrel before being transferred to a new charred oak barrel where it rested another 4 years. So that's why it is a Kentucky whiskey and not a Kentucky bourbon. Because everyone knows or should know by now, to be classified as a bourbon, not only does it have to have 51% corn and be made in America, it has to be aged in new charred oak barrels. This being aged originally in used barrels technically would make this a double oak American light whiskey, right? Enough talk, let's get into this. On the nose, I get like dark caramel. I feel like there's a nice cherry presence there on the front, nice dark caramel on the back. Definitely some vanillas there, definitely some spice there, baking spices, things like that. Maybe a little bit of rye spice, but nothing earthy, nothing, no dill, nothing like that. No mint. And only 21% rye, I wouldn't consider that to be high. Yeah, at 118 proof, definitely a subdued nose. I'd have a hard time placing that this is 118 proof if I had to, off the nose. There is some nice barrel influence there. Knowing that this is a double oak and it was first finished in a used barrel, don't know what used barrels. That would be interesting to know what was in the barrel before this was placed in it. Doesn't really matter, but it'd be interesting. I almost kind of want to say this has a toasted kind of profile to it, but it also has those darker notes on the backside. So more toasted and toasted marshmallow on the front and more darker, heavier charred, impacts on the back, if that makes sense. Let's put this on a palate. That is very nice. Wow. A nice, warm, lingering finish. You do get that proof, that 118 proof does come through on the palate. You get that initial rush of proof around your tongue, but it subsides, and then you're just left with a lot of nice little, layers of caramels and brown sugars, and there's an oak impact there. On the front side, there's that vanilla, like a toasted marshmallow, lighter notes, and then it evolves into that heavier, darker notes. There's maybe even a little bit of, you could probably twist my arm and say there's like a tobacco component on the backside with those darker fruits and those darker brown sugars. Let's go for a second sip. Yeah, she's starting to wake up. This has been open for 3 or 4 weeks, so it has had a little time to open up. I think that's phenomenal. On the third nosing and third sip, a slight nuttiness there. Definitely picking up on some kind of a caramel, butter, and some kind of I wouldn't say peanut, but maybe like an almond or a cashew. There's a slight nuttiness there. So either way, regardless of where it comes from, $70 for an 11-year double oak from an up-and-coming distillery, I think this is jam up. If you can find any of the Purple Toad offerings, definitely give them a shot. I think this is a great, great offering. I mean, where else can you get an 11-year double oak at cask strength for this price point? I think this is awesome. I didn't talk about the mouthfeel, but the mouthfeel on this is very nice. It's definitely above average. It's not blowing me away or anything, but it's definitely above average in my opinion. The finish on it is fairly nicely lingering, nice warm baking spices, and then those darker fruit notes kind of come in on that long finish. I think the finish on this is pretty superb. I think it's great. So yeah, that's all I got to say about this bottle. If you can find these, they do have these. I'm pretty sure, according to their website, this is Kentucky only. So how this got into some liquor stores here in South Mississippi, I don't know. But these guys were at the Spillway event here recently, here in Mississippi. So again, they're just now starting up. I don't know any of the details from them, but if you can track down any of these Purple Toad offerings, they're definitely a buy. Pretty sure this is mostly available just in Kentucky and possibly at the distillery. They do have a tasting bar finally open to the public. So if you're in that area, definitely give them a shout. Super, super stoked to have this bottle. Don't forget to hit that like button and drop some comments down below. Have you seen anything from Purple Toad? Does this excite you in any way? A new distillery sourcing, putting out an 11-year double oak for $70. Yeah. Would you guys pick this up if you saw it on the shelf? Let me know down in the comments what you think. So until the next one, y'all, cheers.